They found her body in broad daylight. Not hidden, not buried, not forgotten. Lying in the grass, cut in half, washed clean, smiling permanently. The killer didn't hide her. He wanted to be seen. He wanted the city to look at what he had done. And 78 years later, he never paid for it. This is the Black Dahlia, Los Angeles. 1946. The war was over. World War II had ended, and America was trying to remember how to breathe again. Soldiers returned home with medals on their chests and nightmares behind their eyes. Factories slowed, families reunited, parades filled the streets. And nowhere did hope burn brighter than Los Angeles. Hollywood was entering its golden age. Movie studios expanded overnight. Sound stages ran day and night. Casting calls promised stardom to anyone bold enough to dream. Neon lights flooded the streets after sunset. Billboards smiled down from every corner. Everywhere you looked, the message was the same. This is where dreams come true. But Los Angeles had another side, a quieter side, a side hidden behind the lights and laughter. It was a city that consumed people, especially the young, especially the poor, especially women who arrived with nothing but hope. And one of them was named Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924 in Boston, Massachusetts. From childhood, she stood out. Her skin was pale, almost porcelain. Her hair jet black. Her eyes a soft, light blue that people remembered long after she left a room. She was beautiful, but beauty never meant safety. Her family life was unstable from the beginning. In 1929, after the stock market crashed, her father disappeared. He abandoned his car near a bridge. The family believed he had jumped, that he was dead. They mourned him, but the truth was crueler. He had simply walked away. Elizabeth never knew that. She grew up believing her father chose death over staying. Her mother was left alone to raise 5 daughters during the Great Depression. Money was scarce, food was rationed, stability didn't exist. Elizabeth learned early that love could vanish without warning. Elizabeth suffered from severe asthma. Doctors sent her away for treatment. Hospitals, sanatoriums, relatives' homes. She drifted from place to place, never staying long enough to feel safe, never staying long enough to belong. Those years shaped her. She learned not to rely on anyone. She learned that adults leave. She learned that home is temporary. Elizabeth didn't want a quiet life. She didn't want predictability. She wanted escape. As a teenager, Elizabeth began traveling, not because she had a plan, but because staying still felt unbearable. Florida, California, Santa Barbara. She chased warmth, sunlight, a feeling that maybe somewhere else she could start over. In 1943, she was arrested for underage drinking. A minor incident, barely worth mentioning. Her fingerprints were taken, filed away, forgotten. At the time, it meant nothing. Years later, those fingerprints would speak when she could not. Elizabeth fell in love with a military pilot. For the first time, she believed her life might finally stabilize. Marriage, a home, a future that didn't involve drifting. She imagined herself becoming someone else, someone safe, but fate intervened. The pilot died in a plane crash before they could marry. Elizabeth didn't just lose a fiancé, she lost the version of herself that believed happiness was possible. Once again, she was left behind. Late in 1946, Elizabeth arrived in Los Angeles. She had no money, no acting contract, no permanent address. Hollywood didn't welcome her. It barely noticed her. She slept behind nightclubs, in cheap hotels, on couches belonging to men she barely knew. She ate when she could. She stayed where she was allowed. The tabloids later painted her as reckless, promiscuous, a tease. But those who knew Elizabeth told a different story. She didn't sell herself. She wasn't chasing men. She was chasing survival. Elizabeth often wore tight black clothing. Dark makeup framed her pale face. There was something sharp about her beauty, almost gothic, almost unreal. Friends began calling her the Black Dahlia, inspired by the 1946 film The Blue Dahlia. The name sounded romantic, mysterious, dangerous. Elizabeth liked it. For once, she wasn't invisible. She had a name people remembered. She didn't know that name would outlive her. Leimert Park, a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood. New houses, fresh lawns, children playing beneath the California sun. On the morning of January 15th, Betty Bersinger was walking with her young daughter. They passed an empty lot, tall grass, unfinished sidewalks. Then Betty noticed something white lying in the field. From a distance, it looked unnatural. Still, like a mannequin discarded after a store display. As she stepped closer, her breath caught. Her mind resisted what her eyes were seeing. Then reality snapped into place. She screamed. It wasn't plastic. It wasn't a doll. It was a woman, Elizabeth Short. Her body had been cut cleanly in half at the waist. No hesitation, no jagged edges. A precise surgical cut. There was almost no blood at the scene. Her body had been drained completely. Her skin appeared pale, waxy, unnatural. The two halves of her body were positioned deliberately. Arms raised above her head, legs spread apart. Her face had been slashed from ear to ear, a permanent smile, frozen, mocking. Elizabeth Short was no longer a person. She was a message. Detectives stared at the scene. The positioning wasn't random. Someone had stood there, adjusted her arms, adjusted her legs, looked at her face. This wasn't panic. This was presentation. And presentations require an audience. The autopsy room fell silent. Elizabeth had been tortured for at least 10 hours. She suffered repeated blows to the head. Flesh had been cut from her thighs and breasts. A rose tattoo on her thigh had been carefully removed. Her internal organs had been rearranged and placed beneath her body. Her stomach contained feces, suggesting she may have been forced to eat before death. There were signs of sexual assault, but no semen. Her body had been washed with gasoline. The killer cleaned her, removed evidence, then displayed her. This wasn't rage. This wasn't panic. It was controlled, calculated, ritualistic. Los Angeles froze. Newspapers printed her face again and again. Women stopped walking alone. Parents locked doors earlier than usual. The LAPD launched the largest investigation in its history. Over 750 detectives, more than 150 suspects. The FBI joined the search. Elizabeth Short was identified in just 56 minutes, using fingerprints taken years earlier. America was horrified. And then the killer spoke. On January 24, 1947, a package arrived at a newspaper office. Inside were Elizabeth's belongings, her address book, her birth certificate, her photographs. Every item scrubbed clean with gasoline. A message made from newspaper clippings read, "Here are Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow." More letters arrived. One was signed, "The Black Dahlia Avenger." The writer promised to turn himself in. He gave a date, a time. Police waited. Reporters waited. The city waited. He never came. The final letter read, "I've changed my mind. You didn't play fair. The Dahlia killing was justified." And then, silence. Hundreds of people confessed. Some were mentally ill. Some wanted fame. Some believed they had done it. None were the killer. Names rose. Names fell. But a few remained. Robert Red Manley, Mark Hansen, Leslie Dillon, and one name that never went away. George Hodel was wealthy, brilliant, trained in surgery. He moved easily among Hollywood's elite. He had the knowledge, the access, the arrogance. In 1950, police secretly bugged his home. What they recorded was chilling. "Suppose I did kill the Black Dahlia. They can't prove it now." Not a confession, not a denial, a challenge. Years later, his own son, Steve Hodel, accused him of being a serial killer. Books were written, connections drawn, but evidence never crossed the line into certainty. By the end of 1947, the case stalled. Leads dried up. Witnesses disappeared. Elizabeth Short was buried in Oakland, California, but the Black Dahlia never rested. She became a symbol of Hollywood's cruelty, of broken dreams, of a justice system that failed. More than 78 years have passed. The killer remains unknown. He may be dead, but the fear he created still breathes, still watches, still whispers. So what do you think? Was George Hodel the killer? Or was the truth buried deeper, hidden behind power, money, and silence? Leave your theory in the comments. Subscribe if you want more stories where justice never came. Because some secrets don't just stay buried. They wait.